Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video and another ranking video. Now, this is going to be my ranking of the DCEU movies, the DC extended movies, ranging from 2013 from Man of Steel all the way to the end of 2023 with Aquaman 2 or Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, I was actually planning to do this, I guess, around a week and a half ago at the end of 2023 after I saw Aquaman 2, but I didn't get around to seeing Aquaman 2 until yesterday from when I'm making this video. You might not see this video for another like 3 or 4 days after I make it, not too sure, but I wanted to make sure that I saw all the movies, and I hadn't seen Blue Beetle yet, so I did a bit of a double feature, watched Blue Beetle at home, waited about 45 minutes, went to the movies, went to the pictures, and saw Aquaman 2. So I've seen all 16 movies from Man of Steel through to Aquaman 2, so now I can actually rank them properly. Now, I know my ranking is going to be absolutely effed up compared to other people just because I know I have weird tastes or, you know, particular tastes in regards to how I like my comic book movies in particular, and specifically DC movies. So I know my ranking is going to be off. I know people aren't going to like some of where I place certain movies, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But of course, throughout the video, let me know in the comment section down below your rankings, whether you want to rank all 16 or just put your top 3 and bottom 3 or just your top 5 or whatever it is. Let me know. And also, if you want to critique my rankings, feel free to. It's open season. Go for it. But of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like on the video as well. Always appreciate it. But yeah, let's not waste any more time because I feel like if I dawdle this movie, God, maybe it could end up being movie length if I'm not quick. This video could end up being 45 minutes, and I really don't want to keep you here for that long. It's just a ranking video, so let's get into it. 16th, last spot. Some might go, hey, it's obvious, but maybe it's not, because for me, it's Suicide Squad from 2016. Now, this movie, first 25-30 minutes, I really, really like. Maybe not a 10 out of 10, but solid 8 out of 10, the first 25-30 minutes. After that, it turns into, the way I describe it to people usually to give my thoughts on it, you know when you play like a adventure action game, like story-based game where you have like, let's say like Last of Us or Uncharted or whatever it might be, and you get to a bit in the game where you have to go through something slowly, like a crack in the wall, and you have to go on your side and creep through it, or you got to like creep around, or you got to climb a ladder or whatever it is, and it's clearly that they're doing this so they can load the next stage, like the graphics and whatever it is. The middle third and most of the third act feels exactly like that with Suicide Squad. It is so goddamn boring, it's not even funny. It's just not funny. And then the third act has some fun bits in it, but overall it's pretty clunky. I think it's clearly the worst movie. Outside of the first 25-30 minutes being a lot of fun, the rest of it, which apparently seems to be like mostly what David Ayer was going for, wasn't very good. So it ends up being bottom place. Now, outside of Suicide Squad, the other 15 movies, I think are pretty fine. Like, I think they're all like 5.5 out of 10 upwards. Suicide Squad's the only one I'd probably give like under a 5. Probably give like a 4.5, maybe 3.5 if I want to be really, really harsh. But I'd happily rewatch every single one after that. And the only thing I'd rewatch from Suicide Squad is the opening 25 to 30 minutes, which I think is pretty damn good. So number 15, pretty expected, I guess, after Suicide Squad. And that's Justice League 2017. Now, this movie, I think it's fine. I actually do think it's fine. I don't think it's bad. I think it's like drastically shifting in tones constantly, because you have a Zack Snyder scene, then a Joss Whedon scene, then a Joss Whedon scene, then a Zack Snyder scene, and then you have one scene where it's got both Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon shots and Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder like dialogue from the different script. It's crazy. It's like Whiplash almost. But the pro that I always give this movie, I think it's got the best Superman that we get in the entire DCEU. Maybe an edgy choice, I'm not too sure, but I'll stick by that. When Superman's in this movie at the end, in the third act, it's the most Superman that we get. Like, the most Superman-y Superman we get. Henry Cavill agreed. I think if you like Superman, you probably agree. But then again, that might have triggered people just saying that. But that's where I stand with it. And I think that actually makes it worth watching as well. But yeah, it's just very... the tones and stuff like that, constantly jumping around. Just very jarring and whiplashy, so that's the biggest issue with it. At number 14, I have Black Adam. I think this movie is just as mid as it can get. Like, honestly, I don't think there's anything outstanding about it. I don't think there's anything overly insulting about it either. It's just mid. I think, like, whenever I talk about, like, DCTV or Arrowverse shows in particular, I always talk about, this might trigger people, I always talk about Batwoman being the most mid show ever. Like, it's never got anything overly insulting, but it's also never got anything overly outstanding. Black Adam is that. So if I guess we're making the comparison that Black Adam to the DCEU is what Batwoman is to the DCTV universe. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Hawkman in the JSA was cool, Dr. Fate, but yeah. And number 13, most recent movie I saw in the DCU and the one that finished it off, Aquaman 2. First 2/3 of this movie. A lot of fun. Thought I was in for a good ride. Had some inconsistencies in there where I was like, this is edited weirdly and it feels like there's scenes missing, but it was still okay. Final third, what happened there? I felt like there was 4 different movies going on. Not saying like lengthwise, I meant like it felt like I was watching a global warming one, then like an actual superhero one, and then some other weird like like sci-fi one. It was weird. It was like 3 or 4 different movies going on in that final third act, and it smells of reshoots. It was weird. If the third act was just like the first 2/3, it's probably a bit higher up. Like, it's obviously not as good as the first one by far, but I was disappointed by this one. I'm not gonna lie. I thought Patrick Wilson was fun. Momoa just felt like he was playing Momoa. I know people say that about the first one, though I feel like in the first Aquaman, he's still trying to play Aquaman. In this one, it feels like half of a Jason Momoa documentary or day in the life. Like, there's a bit where he's riding on his motorbike in what looks to be Hawaii. It just looks like behind the scenes footage. It would not surprise me if it was behind the scenes footage for like what they would put on like the Blu-ray, and they just put it in the movie for some reason. And then like they're constantly drinking Guinness, which is Momoa's favorite beer, but like is never in the first one. They're just drinking normal. I don't know. It's jarring. Like and there's like a guitar in the bass in the. I don't know. It feels like a Jason Momoa documentary half the time. But anyway, it's got some good stuff, but it's just very disappointing and very all over the place. And number 12, probably a controversial one. I probably got 3 controversial ones in a row. And I'm not too sure if people are going to like it. And that is, at number 12, I have Man of Steel. Now, I've said this before when it comes to Man of Steel. It's just that I think it's actually Zack Snyder's most like pretty looking movie, and probably his best put together movie. But as a Superman movie, I just don't vibe with it at all. I think it goes against a lot of the different Superman aspects. Though I must say, I love the opening bit with Krypton, like the destruction of Krypton, and it makes you wonder what the hell happened with Rebel Moon. That movie was arse. That movie was really bad. And it makes you wonder, why not just make Rebel Moon just like a really long extended movie centered around something like that Krypton thing, because that was really, really cool. But there's good aspects in the movie, but like overall it's just not very good with the Superman stuff. I know some people might disagree with that, or a lot of people would. I'm not too sure. I just don't vibe with it. I never have. I've always said that. Won't change my mind, and that's just the way it is. Next up, the follow-on, Batman v Superman. Let's just get into it. Batman v Superman. Now, I'll say this. I think this movie is actually overhated. Now, a lot of people will probably have this really low if they really want to be critical about it and say, like, I've seen people say it's the worst superhero movie of all time. Like, come on, Morbius just came out. And God, there's other things as well. But Batman v Superman to me just felt like too much going on. Once again, it's sort of similar in the vein of Man of Steel, just does some character things incorrect, and just some of the plot stuff doesn't work. Superman dying, the Doomsday thing, it just feels all over the place. Yeah, and obviously people associate this with like pretty much the DCU couldn't really come back from this point. What happened here, which, you know, agree or disagree, I don't really have too much of a thought on that, because you can always get yourself out of stuff. But this just didn't help, and it is what it is. But I do think it's overhated. It's got some cool stuff in it, especially some of the stuff with Batman. But yeah, you just can't really put it any higher than I have. I might have. Yeah, like a lot of people will probably put Man of Steel above Batman v Superman, but I'd watch Batman v Superman over Man of Steel. And number 10, I know that people aren't going to like this one. Actually, I don't know, but I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and the whole point is that it's a 2.5-3 hour movie stretched out to 4 hours, and I just didn't care for about half of it. Half of it, I just didn't care about what was going on. I was like, come on, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. This might be a big thing that people disagree with, but I think if you just look at the two movies as a whole, the 2017 and the Snyder Cut, they're the same story. It's just what's within there. Like, you pretty much get your own cyborg solo movie within the Snyder cut, and there's just some extended stuff with some of the characters, while still not necessarily fleshing out characters like Aquaman and the Flash, because they were going to be getting movies straight after the movie anyway, so they don't spend too much time on those characters, which is fair enough. I understand that. I think this probably should have been split up into like a mini series, but I understand there's like contractual issues there, and I think that would have probably helped it, just because it's a long watch, 4 hours, man. And as I said, it's drawn out, so it's already a drawn out thing to 4 hours. So I think doing a mini series would have been better, but it just wasn't for me. I'm not the biggest Zack Snyder fan, especially when it comes to the DC stuff, so it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that it's down there, but I still respect the hustle to get it out there from Zack. At number 9, I have Shazam 2, or Shazam Fury of the Gods. Not as good as the first one, obviously, because I haven't mentioned the first one yet. And with this one, it was just a bit... I don't know if it was disappointing. Like, Aquaman 2 was disappointing. I was very disappointed by that in comparison to the first one and what, should have happened here. I think with the second one of Shazam, or Shazam 2... I was more disappointed that they didn't follow up properly from the first one, because I like the Shazam family aspect. The villains in this were a bit crap. That might be putting it lightly, but I like the Shazam family stuff. I think it still fits that same tone and everything they were going for the first one. It was just little aspects and everything. Now it's bumped down a lot from where I put the first Shazam, but that's just because there are some better movies that I liked more than Shazam 2 here. But it's still in my top 10, and I still had a good time watching it. I remember I actually saw this movie like a week and a half after it came out, so I'd seen all the negative reviews and stuff. I'm like, really? It's that bad? And then I went and saw it, and I'm like, what are people talking about? It's not as good as the first one, but it's still a lot of fun, so I had a good time with it. And number 8, I actually have the second most recent DCEU movie I saw, and that is Blue Beetle. Now, this movie surprised me. Now, I only watched this a day before... No, sorry, I saw it on the same day I saw Aquaman 2. So I watched it at home here, and then about an hour later, I went to the theatre, the pictures, to watch Aquaman 2. This one surprised me. Now, the first 2/3 are just okay. They're fine, they're whatever, they're watchable. And it almost feels like a TV pilot, those first 2/3. It feels like they're setting up like an interesting show. Like, you meet the family, you learn what Jaime is doing, gets a Blue Beetle suit, learns his powers. It feels like a TV pilot. And the third act is probably my favourite part of the movie, though the villain is a bit crap. That might be putting it lightly as well. Didn't care at all. But I really like that stuff on the island for the most part, with all the family fighting together and everything like that. I thought it was really cool. And it really makes me want to explore the Blue Beetle stuff, especially with Ted Cord and Jaime going on something to find him with Jenny Cord potentially. I think that'd be really cool. So hopefully James Gunn does something with that in his DCU with Blue Beetle, but that's a wait and see. But I really like the third act. It made me want to see more of this character. And number 7, I have Wonder Woman 1984. I know people are getting triggered by that already, but I like this movie. I like what they do with the story. I understand people have issues with like what Diana does with Steve Trevor, and he goes into the random guy's body, but that's sort of the whole point. Like, it's like the stone is making people's ways that they want to cheat life, but they know that it's wrong. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the story. Diana realizes what she's doing is not only like just it's a bit weird, it's also just wrong what she's doing, along with the side of the other people that take wishes as well. And I feel like maybe that could have been better represented in the film, but I understood it. And I think that's what Patty Jenkins has sort of tried to get along, like push across. That's sort of what the story was meant to be. And I understood that the first time. I've always backed this movie and said I liked it. The only real issue I have with the movie is the third act stuff with Cheetah. Like, it's a bit underwhelming. Like, they spend the entire movie building up Cheetah, and then the fight goes on for like 2 seconds. It's a bit underwhelming. And Pedro Pascal, I like in the movie. I think he's fun as Maxwell Lord. But even his thing, like his ending, is a bit underwhelming as well. But third act's the only thing I have a bit of an issue with. But even then, I only rewatched this movie like 3.5 weeks ago, and I enjoyed the hell of it when I was rewatching it. So yeah, I like Wonder Woman 1984. I'll stand by that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And number 6, I have Birds of Prey. Once again, maybe a choice that people don't agree with, but I like the style of this movie. I vibe with it. I like the music. I like the vibe of it all. I like the characters and what they do with it. I know people don't like the fact that Harley Quinn was in it, but Harley Quinn's always been a character that works better in like group things, whether it is... Well, she's in the Birds of Prey now in the comics. I saw something on Twitter about it, I think. I know how long that run's been going, but I only saw it like just over a week ago. Maybe there's a new issue. I think it might be on the DC Instagram or something like that, but she's in the Birds of Prey now. But I think Batgirl's in there as well. So it's not with like the ones from the movie. Well, some of them would, but I think like Batgirl's in there as well. So she's in the Birds of Prey right now. But she's always worked well on it, whether it is Suicide Squad, Gotham City Sirens, or with Birds of Prey. Even if you look at like the animated TV show, they put her in a group. She doesn't really work well by herself because she needs people to bounce off of. So I vibe with this movie and everything they go for. I like all the actors, I like all the characters. The only issue I have with it is Cassandra Cain. I thought, why is it Cassandra Cain? Could just be some little random kid. Or just, the kid didn't even have to be in it. Really, it's just a bit of a MacGuffin. So that's the only issue I have with the movie is the kid. I didn't really care for Cassandra Cain or just that whole thing they had going on there. But the rest of it, I like a lot. And I only rewatched that. I think I might have rewatched Wonder Woman, Birds of Prey, and... what movie? It was about a month ago. Wonder Woman, Birds of Prey. It might have been the next one. It was the next one. It's these 3 in a row. So I may as well jump into it. So 5th spot, I have the Suicide Squad. It was that. I watched those 3 in a row about a month ago. So the Suicide Squad is my 5th one. James Gunn's entry into the DC world, which led to Peacemaker, which led to him getting the DC gig, being the head of DC, or the co-head of DC alongside Peter Safran now. Great movie, The Suicide Squad. Obviously, it's R-rated. It's got a bit of gore to it, so a lot of people don't vibe with it. But I really like the first and third act of this movie. The second act's fine. It's more just like James Gunn character writing and a bit of funny moments, which can be, some people like it, some people don't. But I think the first act and third act of this movie are really, really good and just feel like Suicide Squad stuff to me. Starro's really cool as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see what, happens with other R-rated stuff going forward with James Gunn's DC world, whether he's the one making it or just consulting about it. I'm not too sure, but I like the hell out of this one. So yeah, it's in my top 5. And number 4, I have the first Shazam. It's a number 4. Love this movie. Comic booky as hell. Just feels like it's ripped from the comic book a lot of the time. I like the Shazam stuff, the Shazamly stuff at the end as well. Really good origin story, both in regards to the hero side and the villain side as well. Yeah, really no complaints. I just like it. Zachary Levi works well. The chemistry between all the characters is really good as well. And yeah, I wish we got more of these movies, like the middle one, because this was about a 70 million budget. I think Birds of Prey was around 70 million as well. And there's been a lot of complaints around that recently, like, all these comic book movies, like $150, $200 million budget. But then you have a movie like Shazam, which was really, really good, and only made like 350, I think, at the box office worldwide, and made a profit of like 60 million or something like that. So didn't even make that much at the box office, but made a big profit because it had a small budget. So it makes you wish that we got more of those, and Shazam should be one of the sort of like, models for that. So I wish we got more of that with some of these smaller characters that aren't as well known. But I think Shazam, a lot of fun. I rewatched that about like 2 months ago, not too long ago, and loved it. So good. But now we get into the top 3, and this is like interesting because like it's my ranking, but I also like when I rank them, I just necessarily didn't put my favorite movie, what I like love the most from the DCU, at number 1. I more mixed it with like favoritism and then also what I just think is the best movie, like quality wise. So it changes the list up a bit, but not too much. So this movie that's at 3rd, if I had to put my like favorite ones, the ones that I love the most, I'd probably put this at 1. But because I've mixed in with like what I think is like the best quality wise and like no real issues, it changes around. So at number 3, I have The Flash, which came out last year. I've talked about this movie a lot. I feel like I'm like one of the few that actually likes the movie, but I like this movie quite a lot. And it makes you wonder, like, I don't know if anyone's out there watching with like some sort of time machine that I can, or not time machine, like an alternate timeline jumping sort of thing, or at least where I can peek into an alternate timeline where there is no Ezra Miller drama and this movie just comes out and it's just a normal movie. What people think of it, because I still struggle to see why people don't like the movie. I can understand some of the criticisms about it, but some of the criticisms seem so small to the point where like it makes it like a 2 out of 10 for you, those small criticisms. But yeah, I really like this movie. I watched it multiple times in theaters. I think it's the most I went back and saw a movie in theaters for ages. And I only went back and I think I saw it 4 times in theaters, which might not seem a lot, but I only see usually movies either once or twice in theaters. So I saw it 4 times in theaters. Yeah, I can't remember what the other movie before that was. Maybe, I can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. I can't remember. I saw Birds of Prey a good amount of times in theaters because I went with different people to see it, but I can't remember what other movie, off the top of my head, I can't at the very least. So I saw The Flash a lot compared to other movies. Yeah, liked a lot. The only issue that I have with it, some of the stuff in the third act is a bit too much, but even then, it's still enjoyable as hell as well. So I have real no complaints, and I'm excited to see what Andy Muschietti does with The Batman, Batman, Brave and the Bold, whenever that comes around. In second spot, I think I have what I think might be the most rewatchable movie in the DCEU, and just technically quite an achievement. And just so comic booky, it's not even fun. It's just having a lot of fun with itself, and that's Aquaman. And it's a bit of a, you know, if you put like the compare where I've put Aquaman 2, and it shows you how disappointed I probably was with Aquaman 2, just based off the rankings at the very least. But the first Aquaman, I just love that movie. Momoa is actually trying to be Aquaman. He's not like doing half a documentary. He's still Momoa, but like that's who he is as an actor. You're just going to get mostly Momoa, and then he just does a bit of acting and plays the character and stuff like that. And that's what he does with Aquaman there. So he's good as Aquaman. Amber Heard's good as Mira. Patrick Wilson's good as Orm. You got Willem Dafoe tearing up as Volko. Nicole Kidman being good as well. Yahya Abdul-Mateen the second, he's good as Black Manta in that as well. And they're just playing it up. It feels almost like a 90s comic book movie, but just with a ridiculous budget. And it's good as well. Yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie as well. Not much really to say. It's just fun, and as I said, extremely rewatchable. Like, you might not think it, because I think it's like longer. I think it's like 2.5 hours, this movie, but it doesn't feel like it. It's really rewatchable, which I love. And at number one, by process of elimination, you might have been able to tell what my number one is, and that is Wonder Woman. It's just good from beginning to end, nails it in pretty much everything. I know people have issues with the third act. I don't. I vibe with the third act. There's like little things there where you can tell that they maybe changed it a bit, but I like it. I think it fits with what they were doing with the rest of the movie, so I have really no issues with it. That's just me at the very least. I have no issues with it. And I think it holds up as the best movie that's been done in the DCU, at least quality-wise. And just liking it as well. I enjoyed the Themyscira stuff. I love what they're doing. And also it's set in World War One, which is a bit different because it wasn't as broad as World War Two. You know, World War One was a bit of a smaller, you know, it was still big, but smaller compared to World War Two. So yeah, I love Wonder Woman. Love it. And yeah, nothing really else to add there. I think it's clear. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your opinions on this. Do you have any issues with my rankings? You probably do. But I'm always curious to hear what you guys are thinking. And also, if you want to put your rankings in the comment section down below, always going to be interested in that, and I'll read through them and see if there's any differences. You can put all 16 from Man of Steel through to Aquaman 2, or you can just do your top 3, top 5, or top 3 and bottom 3, whichever way you want to do. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.